Have you ever been so angry that, a few minutes later, you didn't even recognize the person who just said those hurtful words? Have you ever regretted an argument? Ever wondered why you lose your temper so easily? If the answer is yes, then this is the video you need to watch until the end. Because the truth is, anger does not destroy you. It's your inability to control your anger that is silently eroding everything you're trying to hold onto: your relationships, your reputation, and yourself. Anger is one of the most natural human emotions. It's strong, it's visceral, and sometimes it feels powerful. You feel like you're standing up for what's right. You find yourself just can't take it anymore. You feel like you're fighting. But let's be honest with each other. Are you sure you are fighting for justice? Or just reacting because your ego was touched? I used to be like that. I used to believe that getting angry, yelling, and cutting people off was a way to show strength, to not let anyone bully me. But you know what's scary? After each time, I feel smaller, weaker, and I slowly realized, anger doesn't give you power. It takes away power if you don't control it. Anger is not invisible. It is always expressed through behavior, words, eyes, gestures, and it is those reactions that show whether you are in control, or whether you are letting your anger control you. Many people still think, it's normal for me to react like that. I am angry, but I am not malicious. I just say that for fun. You know what the problem is? Every time you say something, for the sake of it, you push others further away from you. And gradually, you have no one to understand you anymore. I'm not saying anger is bad, but uncontrolled anger is very dangerous. It turns you into someone you don't recognize. It makes you say things that you then spend your whole life correcting, if you're lucky enough to even get a chance to correct them. And more importantly, it makes you more vulnerable to manipulation than ever. You know what's scarier than anger? It's when you don't know you're losing control when you're angry. You think you are sober. You think you are reacting reasonably. But outsiders looking in, they see a person who is no longer himself. A person who is easily led, easily touched, easily hurt, and easily hurt. One word at the wrong time can kill a relationship. One hasty decision can destroy the whole future. And it all started with a small, but uncontrolled, fit of anger. You know what's great? You don't have to be a victim of your emotions. You can absolutely recognize when you're starting to lose control and stop yourself in time. But only if you are aware of the earliest signs. You don't have to suppress your anger. You just need to know how to be angry consciously. Know when to stop before you become the worst version of yourself. And in this video, I'm going to show you the often overlooked, but incredibly accurate, signs that you're drifting away from sanity. Every sign is a bell. A chance for you to pull yourself back before it's too late. If you ever lose your cool and regret, if you've ever asked yourself, why did I say that? If only I had kept calmer. Well, this video is not to blame you, but to help you rebuild from the inside out. Come with me, and you will see. You are much stronger than you think, if you learn to master your own anger. Sometimes losing control doesn't require a full-blown tantrum. It just takes a moment, a loud shout, a punch to the wall, or even a long, suffocating silence. And then, after it's all over, you sit there, feeling empty and regretful. That's the dangerous thing about anger. it doesn't always show up as a screaming, angry person. It can take on many different masks. And if you don't recognize it, you'll live with it as someone who's out of control. One of the most obvious signs is when you start to raise the volume of your voice. You yell, you speak louder to overwhelm the other person. But the sad thing is, you're no longer arguing, you're just trying to dominate. And when your words are driven by emotion rather than reason, you're more likely to say things you never meant to say. Things like, "You never get anything done. You always mess things up." Words that seem to be just to vent anger, but can leave deep, difficult to heal wounds in other people's hearts. We've all been there, but if you find yourself doing it over and over again, if you're constantly using harsh words as a reflex when you're stressed, then you need to stop and ask yourself, who is controlling me? Me or anger? Another, more obvious and dangerous form of loss of control is violence against objects or the body. You may have seen someone punching a wall, throwing things, kicking a door, or wringing their hands until they shake. These actions are not stress relief, as many people think. They don't solve anything. Instead, they indicate a deep-seated helplessness. You don't know how to handle your emotions. So you take them out on anything you can control: a glass, a chair, a phone. And worst of all, many people, after breaking things, turn to blaming themselves, hating themselves, feeling ashamed, and becoming more and more stuck. But you know what? Not everyone who loses control screams or smashes things. Some people choose to withdraw completely. They are silent, but not in a calm way. It is a cold silence, a silence so heavy that it can be suffocating. They say nothing, look at no one, respond nothing, but inside, they are furious. This is a form of emotional freezing. And the scary thing is, this silence can easily be mistaken for calm. But in reality, it is just pent-up anger, waiting to explode at some much more painful moment. Once, I lost contact with a close friend for 3 years, just because I chose to stay silent in a fit of anger. I thought I was respecting myself. But in reality, I was avoiding communication while I couldn't control my emotions. And when I realized, the relationship was beyond saving. Sometimes, anger makes you act as if you are running away from yourself. You decide to break up after an argument. You quit your job because of an insult. You delete messages, unfriend, or end something in a split second, because you believe, I can't take it anymore. But you know what happens next? Regret. Because decisions made in anger are rarely the decisions you really want. We often tell each other, don't do anything when you're angry. But in reality, many people do the biggest things in their lives when they're angry. And then they have to live with the consequences for the rest of their lives. So if you find yourself engaging in one of these behaviors on a regular basis, yelling, smashing, being eerily silent, or making decisions too quickly, stop. Don't just focus on reducing anger. Focus on spotting the signs of losing control in the first place. Because realizing it early, you are already halfway to mastering yourself. Emotions are not the enemy. But not realizing that you are being controlled by your emotions is what really makes you fail. And the best part is, you can totally change that, starting with understanding yourself, through every little thing. Have you ever been in an argument where at some point, You can't remember what the other person was saying? You just wait for them to stop, to argue. You don't listen to understand anymore. You listen to counterattack. And in that moment, you think you're winning the argument. But actually, you're losing your mind. When emotions flood your mind, there is no room for calm. Everything the other person says, no matter how reasonable, you dismiss. You are no longer listening to understand, but only listening to find fault, to find loopholes, to find a weak point to emphasize. You think you are in control, but in reality, you are letting your emotions dictate your reactions. You are disconnecting from others, and more dangerously, disconnecting from yourself. One of the most obvious signs when reason is no longer in control is when you start blaming others for all your mistakes. You no longer analyze what really happened. You no longer seek to understand the cause or ask questions for clarification. You just need someone to blame, a name to label, someone to vent your anger to. You start saying things like, "You always do. I never understand anything. You always ruin everything. It's all your fault." Do those sayings sound familiar? They're like hammers, hitting the truth until it is distorted, leaving only one version, that you want to believe in your anger. Here's the thing. Every time you blame someone else entirely, you're denying responsibility for your own feelings. You no longer see the problem in an objective light, but you look at it through the lens of someone who is hurt, angry, and needs to get something off their chest to feel good. But the truth is, that feeling of comfort is short-lived, and the price you pay lasts a long time. There is one thing that anger is very good at doing, and that is wiping out good memories. A friend who has been with you for years, just one mistake. You have denied everything. A lover who was patient, caring, and listened, just once hurt you. You put it all aside. You don't remember the times they were there for you when you needed them. You don't remember the good things they did. You see only one thing: mistakes. That's when you fall into the most extreme state of emotion. All or nothing. No more understanding. No more acceptance. No more compassion. There was only a roaring anger inside, and a reason strangled to silence. But you know what the most dangerous thing is? You just don't realize it's happening. You think you are reacting reasonably. You think the other person is really to blame. You think you have the right to be so angry. But in reality, you are letting anger cloud all the good you once saw. I have been there. I once had an argument with the person I loved the most, and in a moment of losing control, I said things that later, no matter how many times I apologized, I could never regain the trust I had before. I forgot all the good things she used to do for me. I only remember my own anger. And the worst thing is, when you look at someone through the lens of anger for too long, you forget how beautiful they used to be in your eyes. So, if you're in an argument where you can't hear what the other person is saying, if you find yourself constantly making assumptions, if you deny all the good things that once were, stop it, not to give up, but to return to yourself. Because if you let your emotions continue to steer this ship, you will soon find yourself lost. But if you realize it in time, you can turn around. Take control, and keep the most important things in your life from falling apart. You can't control the world, but you can learn to control your reactions to the world. And sometimes, Just a moment of stopping to really listen is enough to save a relationship and yourself. When anger starts to flare up, have you noticed, the first thing that changes is not the words. It is the body. Your heart beats faster. Your hands start to shake. Your breathing quickens. Your cheeks burn. Your head spins. You feel like you're about to explode. And in fact, it's your body sending out an alarm signal. We're in danger. But strangely enough, you're not dealing with a wild animal. You're just talking to your husband, your wife, your children, your coworkers, or a friend. Just a small conflict, a misunderstanding, an untimely word. But your body reacts as if this is a matter of life and death. And here's the truth. Your body can't tell the difference between a minor argument and a real threat. It just recognizes one thing. You are stressed. You are angry. And your internal defense system is immediately activated. This is called the fight or flight response. It is a survival mechanism that has been around for millions of years. In the past, when humans faced wild animals, this reaction helped us survive. But today, when faced with a hurtful sentence, this reaction is still active, and it turns you into a defense warrior against even the person you love the most. Did you notice? When you are angry, your eyes change. No more warm looks, no more connection. Instead, there was a cold, sharp look, as if closing all doors of communication. Sometimes, that gaze is wide-eyed, never-ending, as if you're confronting rather than conversing. This is not you pretending. This is your body unconsciously reacting to strong emotions inside. The more intense the emotion, the more the gaze becomes closed, unable to perceive anything but a sense of defense or attack. Sadly, the other person will sense this too, and they will react with their own defensiveness. And so, from a conversation that needed to be resolved with connection, the two entered a war where no one won. But the consequences don't stop there. Anger doesn't just pass. It leaves aftershocks, in your mind and in your body. After losing control of your anger, have you ever lain awake all night unable to sleep? You keep thinking about that saying, that look, that action. You don't eat well. Or, on the contrary, you eat indiscriminately. You feel empty in your stomach, empty inside, and you want to fill it with food, coffee, alcohol, or anything that can make you feel good for a while. It is the result of a nervous system that has been on alert for too long. And if this happens often, you won't just lose control in a moment of anger, you'll lose your life energy over the years. You know what's scary about this? It's something many people experience every day, but think it's normal. They're used to not sleeping well, used to eating out of control, used to feeling stressed all the time. But no, that's not adult life. It's the body saying, I'm being controlled by my emotions, and I need to heal. If you've ever experienced that feeling, don't blame yourself. You are not weak. You just haven't been taught how to recognize the signals from within before things go too far. And today, just by sitting here, listening to these words, you have taken the first step to regain control of your body. Control of your emotions. Next time your heart starts beating faster, take a deep breath. When your eyes start to get cold, close them for a few seconds. When your throat wants to say something harsh, hold it back for a beat. Because every time you choose to hold back a reaction, you are choosing a calmer, stronger, more mature version of yourself. You can't stop anger from arising, but you can absolutely learn to not let it own you. There is a very familiar kind of hurt, not from strangers, but from the people we love the most. A sentence said in anger, a judgmental look, an argument where we only want to win instead of understand, and then later, we regret it, but we don't know how to say sorry. Have you ever been like that? One of the most obvious signs of losing control in a relationship is when you start needing to win every argument. You no longer care about right or wrong. You no longer care about the other person's feelings. You only need one thing: to be right, to be recognized, to be above, and that kills the connection. I used to be like that. I used to argue with my ex just to prove that I wasn't wrong. I reasoned. I rehashed past situations. I defended like a lawyer, and in the end, when she burst into tears, I still thought I was right. But when I walked out of that room that day, I realized I hadn't won anything. I just lost something very important, the sense of security that a relationship needs. Anger makes us forget the other person is not the enemy. They are your companions. They are the ones who try to understand you. They are the ones who are also hurt, but because of love, they stay. But losing control makes us see them as rivals. Then the ego takes over, and reason is pushed behind the wheel. And when it's all over, what's left? Regret. You realize you said something you shouldn't have. You feel guilty, feel remorseful. You want to apologize, but you can't open your mouth. Why? Because ego and shame combined form a barrier bigger than any anger. You are silent. The other person is silent too. And the distance kept growing. Not because there was no more love, but because no one had the courage to lower their pride once. You know what hurts? There are relationships that break down not because of lack of affection, but because of the lack of a sentence, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. You shouldn't be so angry." It's a very expensive price to pay, just for a minute of losing control. But sometimes, the danger isn't in not apologizing. But the thing is, you don't think you need to apologize. You say to yourself, "I have a hot temper. That's my nature. She or he must understand." The phrase, "I have a hot temper," may seem harmless, but it is as dangerous as a trap, because it makes you believe that losing control is natural, unchangeable, a fault of personality, and not because you haven't trained yourself. And when you believe that long enough, you become comfortable with hurting others without taking responsibility. I know this sounds serious, but the truth is, no one is born with the right to hurt others just because I have a hot temper. Character is the starting point, but behavior is a choice. You can't change your blood, but you can absolutely learn to control how you react. Remember, a relationship doesn't need someone who is good at arguing. It takes a good listener. People know when to stop. Someone strong enough to say, "I'm sorry, you deserve more respect than that." Because you know what? There is nothing weaker than a person who does not dare to admit his mistakes. And there is nothing more noble than a person who can lower his ego to hold on to the person he truly loves. If you have ever hurt someone because of losing control, don't blame yourself forever. But don't use the excuse, "That's just the way I am." You may be different. You are different. And the journey to emotional mastery doesn't start with never getting angry again. It starts with realizing that anger should not dictate how you treat others. Have you ever let someone drive you crazy with just one sentence? One look, one sneer, one punch to the right spot, and you lose control completely. Get angry, blow up, scream, or withdraw into hurt. You may not notice it, but if others can easily control you just by your emotions, then it means you have lost your inner strength. And that's the first thing I want you to think seriously about today. Many people think anger is a sign of strength, of, I won't let anyone bully me. But the truth is the opposite. When you are angry, you are allowing others to control you. The person who controls your emotions is the person who controls your behavior. You react exactly as they want. You explode just when they piss you off. You ruin a meeting, a conversation, or an entire relationship, while they just stand by and watch. And you know who that makes you? An emotional puppet. We don't like to hear this. No one likes to be called weak. But losing control isn't just a behavioral thing. It's a clear sign that you're not strong enough inside to stay calm when you need to be most. I have been there. Once, I lost a whole week just because of a mild criticism from my boss. I felt insulted. I was angry. I told my friends and family. And I thought to myself, they don't respect me. But when I look back, I realize I was the one who allowed myself to be hurt. I don't have internal boundaries. I can't tell the difference between a compliment and an insult. And so, I became a victim of my own story. Have you ever been like that? When you are angry, you can no longer see the problem objectively. You create a scenario in your head. I was treated unfairly. No one understands me. I have always been the one to suffer. The more you repeat these sentences, the more you feel right, and lose the ability to accept responsibility for your own emotions. You see, no one can hurt you if you don't allow it. This may sound like a cliché, but it is an incredibly powerful truth. You may be touched, but you are not obligated to react like a wounded person. It all starts with inner boundaries. The more stable you are, the less reactive you are. The more you understand your own worth, the less you are dragged down by what other people say. And most importantly, you keep your own life energy. Because you know, anger doesn't just destroy relationships. It drains energy. After a tantrum, you feel like you've lost your whole day. Can't concentrate. Don't feel like doing anything. Emotions weigh down like a rock in my chest. You feel exhausted, empty, like a part of you is missing. And the sad thing is, you lose all of that. But nothing gets resolved. The problem remains. The other person may have forgotten. Or worse, is gone. Only you remain, feeling numb after an uncontrolled emotional outburst. So today, I want you to ask yourself a simple question. Am I letting others control my emotions? Am I becoming a victim in the story I write? Am I letting anger drain me, day by day? If the answer is yes, then don't worry. You are not alone. But you don't have to live like that forever. Because true strength is not about never getting angry, but it lies in, you know how to be angry at the right time, with the right person, and in the right way. And when needed, you can choose not to react. You are not weak. You are learning to be more resilient. And this journey begins with the realization that mastering your emotions is mastering your life. There is a paradox that many people do not realize. When you are angry and out of control, you are not strong. On the contrary, that is when you are most vulnerable. Because you no longer hold your own steering wheel. You let your emotions dictate your words. You let your ego control your behavior. You let others touch your weaknesses and pull you away from who you want to be. And that isn't power. You see, this world is not short of people who are good at reacting. But the world needs people who are good at mastering themselves. In a society where everyone is ready to respond, everyone wants to speak up, everyone reacts immediately, the truly strong person is the one who dares to stop. Stop to recognize the emotion that is coming up. Stop to ask, does this reaction reflect who I am? Stop to choose a different course of action, even if your instincts are telling you otherwise. I know this is not easy, because I used to be the one who always got angry to protect myself. I used to believe that anger was a weapon, an armor, a declaration that said, "Don't touch me." But after hurting others, and myself, many times, I understood. True strength is not about being the loudest voice in the room, but lies in the calmest storm. And you can absolutely be that person. You can start small. Recognize when your heart rate increases because of anger. Recognize when you want to say something hurtful, but hold it back. Realize when your eyes are getting cold, and you soften in just a second. Those little moments, seemingly unnoticed, are where you take back control. Because the truth is, emotions are natural, but behavior is always a choice. You can't stop anger from arising, you're human. But you can absolutely learn to not let anger own you. Imagine a day when you could stand in the middle of a stressful situation and still keep your wits about you. A day when other people get angry, but you don't get caught up in it. A day when you can say, "I am angry, but I will not let my anger define me." That's when you know you are no longer a puppet of your emotions. You are the one holding the reins. And trust me, there is no power greater than that feeling. You don't have to change the world. You just have to start with yourself. From once keep calm. From one response option to another. From a softer word, a softer look, a deeper breath, and every day, you will see, anger doesn't get you anywhere anymore. It comes, you notice it, and then you let it go. As a cloud cannot shake a mountain. Because inside you are strong enough. So strong that nothing can pull you away from the person you choose to be. If you are on a journey of emotional mastery, don't give up. Every time you choose to react differently, you move closer to a stronger, kinder, deeper version of yourself. You can absolutely be stronger than anger. Because you were not born to be controlled by emotions. You were born to be your own boss. And that journey starts today. If you're still learning how to control your emotions, you're not alone. We are all on that journey, each with our own pace. Each with our own story. And if this video touched you at any point, leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, or simply say, "I'm starting over," to let me know you're here, and you're trying too. Don't forget to click like if you find this content useful. And if you want to join me in future videos about living a more grounded, deeper, and stronger life from within, subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Every week, we'll sit down and talk real talk, as people learning to understand ourselves better. Thank you for watching till the end. See you in the next video.